Hi, I bought a second Pump It Up machine recently. You may have seen the video for the first one. I actually got a video camera rolling this time, so you can see the whole process of getting this into my house, instead of just a photo slideshow. So, why did I buy a second Pump It Up machine, you might ask? I have been wanting for a while to try and revitalize the dance game community scene in my town. We used to have a few machines around, but a lot of them, pretty much all of them, disappeared, and they've been gone for a few years now. That's made me sad, because, there aren't any new players playing. I only know really one other person in town who plays, and he's pretty busy, so he doesn't come around a whole lot. So, I wanted some more friends who played this game, and I just wanted to see if I could do something to help the community, make these things more available, because I think every town needs a dance machine. So, I wanted a second one to see if I could host it in an arcade somewhere in town, and just make that available for public use, because I have the one in my home. I haven't advertised it a whole lot, but it is, if you know where to look on the internet, you can find out where it is, and, how to contact me to come play on it, but nobody's done that yet. So I figure if I put one in a public location with a bunch of foot traffic, people will know where it is, they'll start playing again, and yeah, build a community, make some new friends that way. That's the hope. So first step was actually getting another machine. Anyway, so you can see me unwrapping it here. Yeah, so this was fairly similar to what I did for my first one. I had that experience, so I knew what to do and what not to do here, so this goes actually a whole lot more smoothly. Anyway, so here's the sequence of events. On Monday, August 21st, I see an eBay notification. I have notifications turned on for certain keywords when I'm watching for something like this. Now, deals like this only come along every once in a while. This was a pretty good price on this machine. Actually, it cost less than the one that I already had for something that was about as good. So I see the notification, I think, okay, is it time to buy one? I think it is. This one looks pretty good. I want to pounce on this. So, the auction lists a number that I can text of the owner of the machine. And so I text him, ask some basic questions, and yeah, just have a little conversation about it, express my interest, and end up that same day pressing the buy button. So on that day, the machine became mine. I paid for it. So I owned the thing. It was about 900 miles away in Jefferson City, Missouri. I'm in Virginia. So it was going to be quite a journey to get it there. The first machine I bought had, the seller was able to provide shipping for it. This one was different. This was listed as local pickup only. So, I figured, how hard could it be to arrange for somebody to come by the machine, package it up, and ship it to me? That has to be a thing that I could do, right? Hopefully I wouldn't have to make the 900-mile drive to Missouri myself to get it. That just sounds like a complete nightmare. Especially if I was doing it in a rented U-Haul or something like that. That's, ugh. Yeah, that sounds horrible. So I did whatever I could to avoid that. Anyway, so the trucking company that I used last time had been really good for me. So I give them another call just to find out if they'd be able to transport this. Their range doesn't extend as far as Missouri, but they work with another partner who would basically pick it up there, transfer it to them, and then bring it to me. Then I realize that packing is going to be an issue because, this thing is in an arcade, it's just loose, it's out there to be played. So it's not on a pallet, it's not packaged up in cardboard and wrapped up in a million layers of plastic like you see here. So that was a problem that I had to solve remotely, somehow. So I tried to call the trucking company back to see if that's a service they could possibly provide. They were closed for the day. So that's the end of Monday. Tuesday. I actually end up calling the transfer company, the one that would be picking up the thing, to see if they do that sort of thing. Actually, yeah, I talked to both trucking companies, and both of them were just like, oh, no, we don't really do that. So I asked them, well, can you point me to somebody who does? No, I don't know. So they weren't really a whole lot of help with that. So the situation I was in then was that I owned a machine 900 miles away. It needed to be packaged somehow, and I didn't really have any leads for how to get that done. Like, I figured there has to be somebody I can pay money to get to, package this up, get it ready for transport. This has to be a thing. Kind of took me, the rest of the day to figure out even, what keywords to Google for that. Turns out, let's see, what were the important terms? Rigging company came up. That's apparently a thing. Industrial engineering, freight packaging, things like that. Eventually, I found those search terms, figured out... Oh, by the way, so right, those big metal bands there, those need to be cut with tin snips. That seemed to be the easiest way to deal with them. Anyway, so I figure out what I need. Talk to a few services online. Kind of get the runaround for a little while. I spend a lot of time on the phone doing this thing. This took my entire attention for days at a time, basically. And I was trying to juggle it around work and everything, so had to take a little bit of time off work just to get this figured out, do all the phone coordination. I probably spent more time on the phone during this process than I do in an entire year on average. I'm not a very heavy phone user, but still, this was a lot of talking to people. Anyway, so one company in Kentucky redirected to another place in St. Louis. Neither of which is especially close to Jefferson City. So apparently, Jefferson City is the capital of Missouri, but is also... Yeah, so that pad looked really good. I was happy with what I saw there. It's also kind of a small, remote town, so it was a little bit hard to get anybody local there. This might have been easier if this machine had been coming from a larger city. I'm just going on what I could find online and what people told me, I've never actually been there. I didn't go there at all during this process. So, anyway, after calling a few people on the phone, I get one company who says they can do it, but they would have to charge exorbitant rates just to get out there because they were pretty far away. It was going to be $8,000 to $10,000 just for the drive out and back. So that was a little outside my budget. Anyway, they knew somebody more local who could do it. So finally they redirected me to a company in Jefferson City, IEI, Mid-Missouri, Industrial Enterprises Incorporated, I believe is what it stands for. So that put me in contact with somebody who was there in the town and was able to do this service for me. So I talked to somebody there. Let's see, where are we at this point? A few days have gone by. This is Wednesday. Yeah, so I talked to a guy there. I get a good vibe from him. He feels like the right sort of person to be working with for this. So yeah, he says he can do it. This whole time I'm texting back and forth with the arcade owner. I got the impression the arcade owner wasn't actually at the arcade. They had employees there who were doing things, so I was doing third-hand communication with the people who were actually physically where the machine was. I put together a little photo gallery. Hey, I'll put a link in the description just in case this is handy for anybody else. If you need to know how to take a machine apart for transport. Just put a bunch of info there, as best I could, for their usage, to take the machine apart and get it ready for packing. So something happens here. I need to pay attention to what's actually going on in the video. I was just about to carry the pads inside, since I got them off the pallet. The pallet's buried under that pile of cardboard and metal strips and stuff. Then I noticed something. So I try to pick it up. I hear a noise. Uh-oh.
Huh. That's a problem. So as I was getting ready to move this thing inside, I felt something loose right here. This is the thing that the frame joint bracket is supposed to thread into, the thing that holds the pads together. That's just broken clean off. I have a suspicion this might have happened during loading. I can't confirm though. So that's going to be a bit of repair I'll have to do somehow. I have to figure out how to put these threads back in. Might involve some welding. Boy, that'll be fun.
Okay, so this thing is slightly beaten up in a couple of ways, but really it's in extremely good shape overall. Just a couple of minor missing parts that I'll have to figure out at some point how to replace or fix. Anyway, so Friday comes around. It was Monday when I bought the thing, so 5 days have gone by at this point. I get an estimate for how much it'll cost to have this thing packaged up. It's a little more than I hoped, but still within my budget. So that was very doable. So I have some back and forth with the arcade owner about possible alternative solutions. He had some ideas for somebody else who could package it up, but I figured, even though the option that I'd found was a little bit expensive, I got a real good vibe from him. I was happy with what I heard. I wanted to go with somebody I had felt like I had built a working relationship with and trusted a little bit, rather than some unknown third party who might be cheaper, and probably would be cheaper for a reason. So I stuck with what I had. Anyway, so I think about the logistics a little bit. This machine was located at an arcade in a mall. The mall has a loading dock. The transport company expects to just basically pick the thing up from the loading dock and drive off. So my contractor that I had hired needs to package it up all the way, get it from the arcade to the loading dock, and basically wait there for the truck to load it on. So I arranged for all that to happen. Fortunately, that does all seem to be possible. Let's see. Some more back and forth. The guy I'm talking to is actually pretty busy, as it turns out. I was hoping this could get done quickly-ish. Let's see, so that had happened on Friday. Nothing happened over the weekend. I was still waiting on a written proposal from him, which he said he was gonna send to me. I text him on Monday and tells me he'd had a family emergency he was dealing with all weekend, so he was kind of out for a little while. That was unfortunate timing. Anyway, on Tuesday, I get the proposal, sign it, send it back to him, and it turns out his schedule is a lot further out than I expected. So it was going to be Wednesday the following week before he was able to get out there, because he was just swamped with other work, as it turned out. Which, I told the arcade owner about it. He was cool with it, so the machine was just going to have to sit there for a little while. It had already been taken apart with my instructions. Again, put a link in the description for the photo gallery that I put together for this. I think it's a pretty cool little thing. If anybody's curious about some of the ins and outs of these machines in that format, that's there. Okay, let's see. So I wait a week. Wednesday the following week comes around. I send texts in the morning to the people I'm working with just to make sure everything's cool. Let's see. There's some coordination that needs to happen between the transport company and the contractor who's packing up the stuff. This is where things start to go wrong a little bit. So I had gotten a quote from the transport company for how much it would cost to ship this thing. They collected my address, phone number, the weight and dimensions of the thing, the freight class, all those weird things I had to learn about. I kind of figured they had all that information on hand and were going to be able to use it during pickup and could just bring the thing to me. Turns out there was another step in that process that I didn't really know about. Watch me run circles around this thing as I unwrap it. This was fun to do. Let's see. Where are we at this point? I get confirmation at 6:30 p.m. that my contractor thinks the machine was loaded onto the truck and is on its way. I get the impression once again that I'm talking to somebody who wasn't actually physically present at the place. I think he had employees who had gone to the mall and packed this thing up. So both of these people I was in contact with were giving me third-hand information already. So it was a little bit weird and hard to deal with from such a distance. Anyway, so I want to make sure that everything is above board with the transport company, so I give them a call. I had not actually gotten a tracking number from my contractor, so I got them to get it to me from other information that I was able to give them. So on the phone, they tell me that their pickup didn't have a complete bill of lading, and they need a whole bunch of information from me. So the bill of lading is a thing that I had first encountered when I saw it taped to the first machine that I got. I didn't really know what it was. I saw that it had a bunch of information on it. It was the same sort of information that was collected when I got the shipping quote from the company. So I figured, they would just have that information and be able to put it together. But apparently they needed a formal document. I had to learn a lot about what a bill of lading is, what its purpose is. Apparently it's basically functions as a contract between the transport company and the person being shipped to or from. So it's a legal thing. Anyway, it was a little weird. So I wasn't quite sure what to do about that. Talked to a few people, tried to figure it out. The customer service person I talked to with the transport company was being kind of a pain, so I was stressing out a little bit about it. They were a little condescending. It was just the one person that I got a couple of times who seemed like they really didn't want to deal with me. Everybody else during this process was really good, but I had one bad individual who was making my life a little harder. Anyway, so I find a template online for a bill of lading, just sort of fill it out with my best guess, because I wasn't physically present for this thing being loaded. I don't know what its dimensions while on the pallet were, I don't know exactly what its weight is, I was just kind of guessing and filling in information based on what I had gotten on the previous bill of lading from the other machine that I got. Which, turns out, that was good enough for them, so I sent them the thing that I had made up and fabricated, and they were satisfied with it. After I talked to them like 3 times. Okay, let's see, so how did this work? I called them to get a tracking number. They say, we need a bill of lading, please send it to this email address. I eventually do that, I send it to the address. They call me back a day or 2 later and say, hey, we need a bill of lading for this, please send it to this email address. I say, okay, well, I already sent that, I'll send it again, I guess. They call me again and say, hey, we need a thing. So I say, okay, I've already sent this twice, can you check it now? So over the phone, I got them to finally check their email, where they were asking me to send the thing this whole time, and get the thing that I had sent them. They said, oh, okay, cool, we're good to go. So it was awkward. It was weird, but eventually, once I had the document that they needed, they seemed satisfied. Let's see, I skipped a few steps in here, but they weren't really that important. Just checking. I kept a log of all the events that happened here. The price changed just slightly from my quote. It was like $5 more expensive for some reason. Maybe they're giving me a surcharge for apparently being a pain, for not happening to know this magical thing that is kind of obscure. Bill of lading's probably not really an obscure thing, but I didn't know about it. I had to learn on the go. So as I'm unwrapping this thing, I find the frame joint bracket for the pads and a second power cord. So I was wondering where the brackets were. I found them there. I don't know why this shipped with 2 power cords. I only really needed 1. So yeah, anyway. Got all that set. They picked up the thing. Transport took a little bit longer than expected, but it got there in the end. So, on Monday, this was September 11, I think? Yeah, that sounds right. The day that you're seeing on the video here. The machine arrives, and everything's cool. So, that adventure was done. Then I got to have the adventure of getting it into my house, which you're seeing now. So I was a lot more prepared than I had been last time. I actually bought some metal ramps for this, because the first machine that I moved in, all I had was a big piece of plywood, and that was my only tool for getting around. Somehow I got it done. I'm kind of surprised I actually managed that. I also had the pallet that the cabinet had come on. That came in handy. But anyway, I had better tools this time for actually moving this around. So first step, get it off the pallet and onto the ground. I try to pull it and expect it to move, but it does not. So I try to figure out why that is. This arrived in the afternoon on a really nice day, so I was kind of lucky it wasn't like raining or super cold or super hot or something. It wouldn't be super cold in early September. We've just gotten out of the horrendous summer weather. Anyway, so I realized the wheels on the back of that thing are caught on a board that you can kind of sort of see there, so it has to come up and over it. I'm kind of worried about the ramps shifting as I do this, so I'm trying to do it gently and carefully, but it's all going to sort of go at once. Like, however gentle I am, there's going to be a point where it just hops over the thing. I think it actually did that already. So make sure those are aligned with the wheels. They're plenty wide. That's no problem, Alex. Don't worry about it. Stand on things to make sure they stay there, and pull. Right? There's a little bit of a lip to get onto the metal platform. Okay, yeah, I think that was it coming off the board in the back. It's kind of a puzzle at times to figure out when I want to push this thing and when I want to pull it. One of the feet on the bottom was kind of catching on things. I didn't figure out that I needed to raise it for a little while there. So yeah, just go all around the thing, see what it's caught on, get it off that, move it a few inches, see what it's caught on next. This is a few inches at a time process. And you know, this thing is really, really, really heavy, so it kind of wants to move on its own if it gets onto any kind of incline, so it has to be very carefully managed. Those ramps don't have any kind of like side barriers on them. That held in place nicely. So if this thing goes to the side, it's just going to go to the side and fall off if I let it. So I have to be very careful not to let that happen. Those little wooden wedges there are something that I just cut out of the 2x3. Because the ramps don't go all the way flush with the ground, so I figured I would need an extra little bridge in between. Those did the job pretty well. Alright, so that thing is pretty much down off the pallet. Drama free. No problem there. It takes a little bite out of the wooden wedge there as it comes down, you can see. Yep. But it's no problem. So that's down. Alright, get the pallet out of the way, get the door open, and prepare for the really hard part of this. So this is the trickiest part of the entire process. I have that step there in front of my door, then it's sort of another step up into my porch. That's longer than those ramps, which is why I bought myself a second set of them. So those ramps, they're kind of silly. They can be put together to make one that's twice as long, but if you do that, it's at a weird angle and it has this huge gap in between the ramps. Like, I guess it could work if you were driving some large thing with big tires across it, but for a machine like this, with small wheels, it just does not make any sense at all. So instead I just sort of set them back to back there. Which seems fine. So top ones kind of hook onto the lip on the porch, then the bottom ones hook onto those. It feels a little precarious, so I'm kind of being careful how I position it. One of my neighbors walks by and wants to talk right now, so I need to take a moment to deal with her. Hello. I am busy.
Strong project here.
Nice cool day.
Anyway, so I get those aligned about how they need to go. Get the wooden wedges in so that it can hopefully slide right up onto that. So I can't really see super well where I'm going. I think I said this for the video of my first cabinet. A smarter or less stubborn person would have called a friend over to help with this. But I didn't want to do that then. I didn't want to do it now either. So just figured out how to do this by myself. I figured I'd done it once, so surely I could do it again. It's kind of fun to just work out whatever tools you need, whatever angles you need, and just make it happen all on your own. It's just the way I am, I guess. So yeah, trying to align the wheels, which I can't see super well, with the little pieces of wood so I can get them on there. Things were not moving the way they needed to move. And yeah, this whole time I was worried about the ramps shifting some way or another. I kept rechecking them to make sure they were in a nice stable position. They held up okay. But yeah, like there's nothing really holding them in place. They have this texture on them that makes it kind of, I guess it's for traction, makes it a little harder for something with small wheels to roll forward and back. Makes it kind of easy for it to roll side to side, so it was inconvenient for this situation. So I'm not sure, again, whether I want to push or pull here. It's just not going, and I'm not quite sure why at this point. Eventually I figure out that I'm on too steep of an angle. Like, the angle between the ramp and the ground is just too much for the cabinet to be able to take, because there's not a whole lot of clearance down on the bottom of it. Wheels aren't super huge, so it needs a very gentle slope to be able to get up there without just scraping on stuff. So, roll it back, think about what else to do. So I go back to the tool that I used for the first cabinet, which, again, I'm still amazed that I somehow used just that piece of plywood, and pretty much not much else, to get the first cabinet in there. But that can make the slope onto the ramps a little bit more gentle. So let's try it this way. Hopping up onto the plywood like that isn't too bad, so I don't think I need those pieces of wood. They're a little too tall for that anyway. Yeah, I finally realized that 1 foot was down, and raise it so it won't get in the way so much. Just like the pads, the cabinet has 4 feet on the corners and 4 wheels that can roll if the feet aren't down too far. I always just leave the feet up on cabinets because I want them to be able to roll whenever. And unlike the pads, they don't have a lot of forces just sort of moving them around, so having the wheels on the ground all the time doesn't seem like a problem to me. Just want to keep the feet out of the way. Alright, so that's on the plywood. Rolling. Aligned just fine. Those ramps are wide enough that I don't have to worry too much about it. So it's over the top lip of the plywood. And mess around for a little while. I tried to capture most of this process. I've edited out a fair bit of it, but yeah, this was this was fiddly, to say the least. Not quite sure why it's not moving at this point. Pushing didn't work. Let's try pulling. Just doesn't want to go. So eventually I realized the angle is still too steep, so I need to make another adjustment to it somehow. Which means it has to get back down to the ground again. So what I can do, it was the angle between the plywood and the ramps, so I just sort of hike the plywood up the ramps just a little bit so that the angle between the plywood and the ground is a little steeper, but that one wasn't a problem in the first place. It's the second angle that was giving me issues. Check alignment, make sure I have it right where I want it. So finally, this one's going to be the winning run. Pull it up onto the plywood. See, each little rise or fall, well, rise basically, that the wheels have to get over is a significant obstacle that has to be navigated. So there's the rise of the initial mounting onto the plywood, then the fall when it gets off the plywood onto the ramp, then sort of a fall when it gets from the first ramp to the second one, then another one when it gets into the porch. and, two pairs of wheels, one front, one back. Well, one left, one right, I guess, in the orientation that I have it there. So each one of those things has to be navigated twice. So that's why you see, like, that clank. That was the wheels getting off the plywood. Now the ones that are closer to me are getting on it. So yeah, this whole time that I'm doing this, I have this, 600-pound monster just fighting against me. It wants to roll downhill. As soon as I let up any force at all, like that, it's going to come back toward me. So this entire time I'm trying to carefully position it, make sure it doesn't slide to the side. It wants to roll back to where I am. This was quite a struggle. It's kind of fun though. So yeah, process that's done inches at a time. Just inch it forward a little bit, make sure it's not going to the side. Make sure I'm navigating all the bumps in the road appropriately. Make sure my ramps aren't sliding out of place or anything. That could be catastrophic. Fortunately, that doesn't happen. Alright, I'm over the plywood. And at this point, that plywood's kind of in the way. So I had to hold that thing up, somehow reach down and get it out of the way. Which turns out not to be super impossible. Alright, and from here, I'm pretty much in. Just push upward. Don't disrupt the ramps. And there we go. It's over the lip of the top of the ramp. And into the porch.
Success!
Success! Alright, so in the porch. My camera had run low on batteries, and I was exhausted, and I needed to do some grocery shopping, so at this point I recharged the camera, took a break for a few hours, did some other stuff. So that thing just sat in my porch for a while, kind of sort of blocking the doors, but I could get around it. So now, I need to get it out of the porch and into the house. This is a strategy I used last time. I can't get really a ramp in that tiny little space in between doorways. So what I do is I build a little, very shallow stairway out of different pieces of wood. So the idea is, I come over here, and I pull and lift at the same time, so that I can just stair-step it up onto a piece of wood, and take a rest there. Then pull and lift, stair-step it up onto the next piece of wood, and take a little rest there. That worked extremely well. I think that was totally a viable option. This thing is very heavy, but it's just light enough that I can lift up the side of it a little bit if I want to do something like this. Kind of hurts my hands a little bit, but actually this one wasn't too bad. I think this is slightly lighter than my other machine. The display is a little bit smaller, the way the model works, so I'm sure that saves a little bit of weight. And yeah, the whole thing was a little bit smaller, actually. I did some measurements. It's a couple of inches smaller in each dimension, I think. Alright, so that's over my wooden staircase. Another thing that does is it provides me finger pinch protection, because without that, if I slipped at the wrong time, my fingers could easily get pinched under the cabinet on the door threshold. That would be very bad. So I did not want the possibility of that happening. Alright, so front wheels are in. So, I have this huge thing in my doorway now. My back door, for various reasons, isn't very usable. Stay. So my solution to that is to go out the window. Works fine for me. I should really get my back door unblocked so I can go out it. It's probably not healthy to only have one exit to my house. Alright, so from here, just push, complete the process, lift up from that side. I'm kind of down on the ground, like sitting and pushing with my back here, basically. It's at a real good angle for that sort of thing. And that's far enough in, and I can just sort of gently ease it in the rest of the way. This model of machine has very silly decorations on it. I like Pump It Up. Inches at a time again. Eventually. And there it goes. That was the clank of it getting over my door threshold all the way. So that's in my house.
Okay.
Just got to move it from the entryway into the living room, which is where my other machine resides. I tucked it into a corner, basically. It's very cozy in there now, but there's just enough space to have the one machine and its pads tucked into the corner, and have this one set up where the old one was. So kind of the plan here is just to play on the new one for a little while, fix it up, adjust the pads, put whatever software I want into it, hopefully find it a home somewhere in town. That's still in progress. I have a few leads, places to look, but I don't actually have a place to host it yet. But at least this way I'll be able to say to them, hey, I have this machine, it's ready to go now, I can bring it to you tomorrow. And that'll be a little bit more appealing than just some hypothetical future. When I find a good deal on eBay, I can buy a machine and then I'll have one that I can put in your place. That would be a little weird. So yeah, that's kind of a setup. So I'm going to switch over now to talking into the camera. Yeah, so there you go.
Okay, now that I got everything inside, let's just do a quick check over the machine and see what it looks like. So it looks like this is going to be the layout of my room for at least the moment. There's enough space for these pads here. This is pretty much how it was with the GX cabinet there that's now tucked into a corner. So I have this sandwich of dance pads back here. Got the In the Groove pad there and the Pump It Up pad in front of it. And my first Pump It Up machine there, the one with infinity on it. I actually took the hard drive out of this machine so that I can try both Infinity and Prime 2 in this one. It has NX2 at the moment, so I'll play that for a little bit, at least just to see what it's like. This one came with NXA, but I replaced that pretty quick. Anyway, so, things that I notice immediately. The SX, that's the name of this model, this is an SX machine. The decorations, they look terrible in pictures, but in person they look really good. So like what you see on the front here, this stuff probably looks bad on the video, but in person it's actually really nice. I was very surprised. I expected this was just going to be super ugly decorations, but it actually looks good. So the display. Display is significantly smaller. I measured this at 25 inches. This one is 31. So it remains to be seen once I actually play the game to see how... There I am. Hi. You can see my reflection. To see how much of a problem that is. One thing that... Whoa! Okay, so let me talk about that. These pads have their leg levelers up high enough. Really can't see too well there. I just kicked my tripod. I don't mind that. So the wheels down here are actually on the ground. The leg levelers are up off it. That is not how I... excuse me. That's not how I normally run my dance pads. I just actually leave the leg levelers down on those all the time. So I'll need to flip those over, pick a reference point. I guess I could unscrew them while they're on the ground. That seems weird to do. Like, I'd normally flip those on their sides, unscrew the leg levelers a little bit with some sort of just piece of reference material that I just sort of measure against the surface of the pad so I know approximately what level is. Unscrew them enough so that they'll be the things on the ground and put them back down. Because right now these roll very easily. As you saw when I stepped on that and accidentally moved it around. Right, so what I was saying was that I think with the smaller display, just in terms of like viewing angle, it shouldn't make too much of a difference if the machine is just closer to the pads. So maybe with a smaller display it'll work pretty much the same, just gotta put the things closer together, which is kind of good. It's a little more compact. Okay, so as I was unloading the pads, I observed one kind of strange thing. These holes here, those are not threaded. You can't put a screw in there. These are fine. The ones in the back are fine. These little guys These are the threads. I heard another one rattling around in here, so I think the fourth one is actually in there. These are threaded, but they are not connected. They're very clearly broken off, so that's a problem I'm going to have to solve. I can hold the pads together in the back, but there's nothing to hold them in the front because these just don't... They're broken off. I wonder if that's something that happened during loading, if like somebody tried to pick these up while they were still connected and that snapped, or if the machine was just like that. I have no way to really know. Comes with both of these things, so there is at least one missing part I've observed so far. Actually a few of them, but we'll get to those when we get to them. Pad connector goes there, and there. All looks fine so far. I haven't actually connected it yet. Coin door has one lock. So I got this lock here. This one's actually missing. That needs a thing in it. The coin bucket has a bunch of screws and things in it. I haven't sorted through those yet. So I'm hoping it has all the pieces that seem to be missing from various places they would screw into. This seems to be in good shape. Oh, well, I just got that stuck. I'll take it out and clean it, of course. So let's see. This cabinet had the same problem. I had to sort of bend things around a little bit in here to get this to open happily. It kind of catches right there on those things. That's a different coin acceptor than I have over there. Okay, well, different but probably works the same. This looks a lot cleaner in here. There's like less messy cables. What's this? You're not plugged into anything. What's this? You're not plugged into anything. This one came with a keyboard stashed just right down here. This one doesn't seem to have one. There's also a service manual and some other stuff. I can feel some wires in there, but nothing much else. Well, I guess the way to do this would be... Well, no, that has a cage in it, so I'm looking outside that. Okay. So that's that. How do these buttons feel? A little clickier than those. I have a real problem with the service and test button in here. They double fire almost every time I press them, and it's very annoying. So I'm hoping these will perform a little better. I'm not going to close that all the way because it's a pain. So this cabinet is slightly smaller this way than this one. I measured it. I forget what the measurements were, but it fits through a door better. It's definitely much smaller this way on the top part. Because, yeah, I can see all this space I have here next to the USB box, which is intact. It's mounted in kind of a janky way. On the other cabinets, this hole is actually just inside here going into the top part. I think that's how it's supposed to be, but this is what they decided to do here. Okay, so I haven't opened up the pads at all yet. I did hear things kind of crunching around a little bit when I stepped on them, so I don't want to do too much with them before I open them up and make sure there aren't, like, stones being crunched into the sensors or something. Haven't turned this on yet. I just got it into the house. Alright, so let me figure out a way I can get to the back of this thing. Since nothing's connected, I can just... This is hard to do one-handed. I can just kind of move it around freely in the room. This plate was not installed when I got it. I have it over somewhere. There it is. Presumably the screws that put it in will be in the coin bucket there. The marquee. So this thing will need to go up top. This is the most major missing part that I've noticed so far. So this is MX2. This piece here that's supposed to hold that in, that just doesn't exist. It's on this side here. I might have to have a machine shop or like figure out how to bend the metal myself, just fabricate a new one of these, or the other side of it, because that thing just doesn't get held in with just one side. It needs both sides. Let's see, this piece is here, this piece is here, this piece is not. Inside of the marquee looks fine. These are a little bent up. You can see that's at a funny angle. The same thing kind of happened up here. I just had to rebend them and get them in better shape. So I'll do a little bit of work on those. Other than that, this looks fine from what I can tell. Alright, so back here, where's my screwdriver? Screwdriver. I didn't really do that left-handed. Let me switch camera hands. This is just being held in by one screw. This is a different kind of screw than was used in my other one. That doesn't have a thread in it. That doesn't have a thread in it. So there's like a bunch of missing screw threads happening here. I'm not actually sure how I'll repair, but I'll find a way. I mean, this holds in just fine for one. It's not like this is a... drop my screwdriver. Not like this is a front-facing part that needs to look good or anything. So I could just leave it like this. So you come out of there. Catch this in my knee so it doesn't just open on me. Okay, so inside, first thing I notice is that it's very dark in this room. Second thing I notice is that this is hilariously dusty. Look at that. Dust just all over the connectors. Third thing I notice, this is an MK9. So I was lucky enough to get an MK9 with the... I think that's an MK9. Actually, am I sure about that? Reasonably. I mean, it looks like it to me. Yeah, I think that's an MK9. So yeah, I won't have to upgrade it to run newer stuff, basically. Although I hear that the MK9 that shipped with this, and with this over here, can't actually run HD. I was thinking it might be a good idea to replace that monitor, because this one's so tiny. I'll see how it feels during play. If it's fine, it's fine. But yeah, that's something I might consider, and apparently you need a newer graphics card. I could probably just stick a different one in there. Newer graphics card to run stuff. How does this pull out? It's kind of catching on something. I don't know what that's caught on. I'll worry about that later, I guess. I don't want to mess with these wires too much. Man, that's so dusty. That's very, very dusty in there. So I'm going to have to do an internal cleaning on this thing, definitely. Okay, so those are my initial impressions. I'll play NX2 a little bit, then open that up and put a different hard drive in it. Make sure it runs Infinity and Prime 2 properly, and all that stuff. Open up the pads, get them cleaned out. Gonna have to do a deep cleaning on everything. But yeah, right now I just want to put on the marquee so I can have some audio. Hook up the pads. Probably gonna have to deal with the wheel issue, because I don't want to play on these if they're going to be rolling around like that. I don't want to play on them too much anyway before I open them up, but I want to at least do a basic function check and turn the thing on, make sure it runs and all that. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going ahead and dealing with the leg levelers on the pads right now. I've already unscrewed this one. This will protrude just past the wheel here. So my process for this is just to flip the pad over, like I said, use a little reference object just so that I know how far to unscrew each one. This screw just happens to come in handy. I think this is a 2-inch screw, 2.5, something like that. Anyway, so just the tip of it and the bottom of it will just sit in there, exactly. So then for the rest of these, this one has to be done a little differently because it has this extra thing on it, but I just put that in there, unscrew this, far enough until it's a little easier if it's not one-handed. So a thing that I did with my other pads, and also the way I built the in the groove pads back there, there's an extra nut in here. I believe this is how DDR machines do things. So the second nut would tighten up toward the top when you have these at a level you want them at. That's just about perfect. That needs to go in just a little bit. So it just keeps that, keeps vibrations from like screwing this in slowly, basically by putting a little bit of strain on the threads in that direction. So I might get some M16 nuts to put in there to do that for them. I've heard, well no, even if those were on there, you could still screw these up enough to, screw these upward, inward, enough to still use the wheels. I don't really use those wheels at all, though. I always leave the wheels down on the cabinets, but up on the pads. Well, it's the opposite. It's the leg levelers down on the pads, up on the cabinets. Because it's very handy to be able to roll these things around, and they don't really move around during normal operation. These do. And if I want to move these around, I usually have them on their side and just pick them up from there anyway. Anyway, so just going to level these all, put the pads down, connect the bracket in the back where the threads are in, and just kind of hope it stays together in the front for now. I'll definitely need to probably, yeah, it's this one that has the problem. I found the fourth threaded thingy. I don't know what to call this. It's not quite a nut. It's like a nut. This was included in the coin bucket with all the screws and things, wherever I put that. There it is. So they knew about it. They included that. I think I'm probably going to have to get nuts with the appropriate threading and like weld them in here or something. I don't know anything about welding. Maybe get somebody else to do it, or just attach them some other way. Or maybe now's the time to learn about welding. I don't know. But I mean, that's not a terribly hard problem to solve. It'll take a little bit of doing, but I'm confident that that's very solvable. All right, let me get these leveled, then we'll turn on the machine and actually see what it's like to play on these. All right, I got the pads all leveled out, everything connected, so time to turn this on and see how it does. I have just this tiny little space, which actually I'm having trouble squeezing my body into. So this is the amount of space I have to get back here now. Switch. There we go. Noisy fan. Not as noisy as this one was. This used to have a fan that made a horrible noise when I turned it on. I didn't do anything to it, and it just sort of fixed itself. Alright. Oh, saw that for a second. So these pads are very creaky and make a lot of noise when I step on them. I'm very eager to get them open, but I want to do at least just a basic function check to make sure this all works before I go nuts with it. This, I'm noticing, is overlapping with the screen here. I wonder how loud this is. I hope it's not, like, crazy loud. I should figure out to turn it down, or up. It is turned very down. Okay. Alright, that's NX2. Neat. These are not lighting up yet. Okay. Lights do appear to work. They're actually not too bad. This one's not lighting. Okay. So I'm not going to check the set. Well, here, let's do this. Go into the operator menu. Okay, operator menu. I/O test. Oh, a stuck panel. Well, that would be why it's not lighting. Alright, so we got a stuck sensor there. Alright, I'll have to open that up to see what's up with it. Those all light up. Those light up. Good. 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 Now, does this light? Yes. So presumably this would light up if it weren't just already stuck down. I'll just have to open up that panel and see what's up with it. Good. Good, 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 and good. Okay, all sensors work. Yeah, got a stuck thingy here, so I'll have to do that before I do any actual playing on this. This screen is not very good. It's kind of blurry, it's kind of small, and the decoration around here is overlapping with the outer part of it. So yeah, once again, I'm thinking I'm probably going to want to replace this with something else. But I'll give it a chance. I'll mess with it a little more. It seems like it's rotated a little bit or something. I know there's some adjustments I can make if I go back here and mess with the CRT circuitry and stuff. Not the circuitry, but like there are little adjusters on it to change stuff like this. Okay, well I'm going to get that open and then try playing around on it and see how it feels. Alright, I got the brackets off of there. There's something sticky and disgusting on this one. It's very gross. Now, these screws came out like it was nothing, which is awesome. You might remember, if you saw my video for that other cabinet, how just incredibly rusted, like every single screw on the surface of that thing was rusted horribly. Oh yeah, there's a screw missing here, but I have extras, so that's no big deal. But yeah, these are very good, not rusted at all, came right out, so that is very nice. Alright, I haven't opened this yet, so you're gonna get to see what I see for the first time. Okay. Normal levels of dust. Actually, oh, these are LED pads. Nice. Okay, so it was in the SX era that those changed to LEDs. Neat. Okay, that would explain why they're lighting as nicely as they are. Alright, so that's still stuck. This is kind of coming out of its channel. If I just pull this up... Yeah, the bracket was stuck. Bracket is not moving freely. I saw that light for a moment. Yeah, it's very bright. Okay, cool. So fix up the bracket. I'll unscrew this, lubricate the... Yeah, so my solution for a sticky bracket like this is not even a sticky bracket, this is just a, like, non-moving one, is unscrew that, spray WD-40 on a Q-tip, kind of run it inside the inner parts of the holes in the bracket, and then put it back on, and that always fixes me right up. Alright, so I'm going to do that, and this should be good for a test play. Alright, got my equipment here, so here's my process for this in case anyone's curious. A few people have asked me about this. So I just take it to Q-tip, spray WD-40 on it, have something behind it so it doesn't go all over the place. I'm going to be using this paper towel for cleaning this out, I'm sure, shortly. And then all I do is just sort of run it in through here, rotate it around, make sure just those walls of each hole here are lubricated. And then that usually is enough to let this just slide up and down freely inside this thing. So let me put that back in, and we'll see how that goes. So another thing is there's a bunch of little stones and things right here on the sensor. I'm very uncomfortable about this. It's survived for this long, so it'll probably weather at least one more test play. I'm going to just take the sensor out and sort of shake it off a little bit, just so I'm not grinding those particular stones into here. Alright, let's get this back on. Somehow. You go in there, you go in there. Somehow. Sometime. A bunch of little details in here are just slightly different from the pad that I'm used to. This is a newer revision. Well, especially the LED module here. I've seen these in other people's pads and they've opened them up, so I know that that's the more modern way of the lighting. I guess mine might have been one of the last of the CCFL models. So yeah, this is nice. I won't have to replace the lights at all. These are definitely dimmer than the ones I put in that pad over there, but they're bright enough. They're perfectly adequate. So I should be able to tighten this all the way down. And with that extra lubrication, this should move freely up and down. Yeah, nice and free. Okay, let's put that back together and play a game. Alright, got that back together. Let's see what NX2 is like. It's a little darker in here, but the light works better that way. So I put it on free play. I haven't adjusted all the settings. I do have a USB drive I could connect, not going to right now. This is a bit loud. You probably Let's turn that down just a little bit. Alright, NX2, Cascade Station, World Max, Special Zone, Training Station. Okay. This will probably be pretty similar to NXA. Right, how to play, whatever. Whoa. Alright, I'm not going to do anything too crazy. Just, let's see, what do you have on freestyle? So 14, let's do something a little easier. I want to play on double to see how both the pads work. There's a few songs here I don't really know. Alright, I'm going to pick a song and then we'll give it a try. Alright, a little bit of troubleshooting later. The bass was turned way down as it turned out. I've picked a song. Probably won't be able to see the screen or the whole pad very well, but this is about the best angle I can do at the moment. Till I get video capture and everything on there. So let's see how this goes. I wanted to be all cool and double S that first try, but not quite. That's an S at least. Whoa! The announcer had nothing to say for that. That's weird. I'm used to having them say something. Okay, so pads work extremely well. Like, that is really good. They do have the thing where they're a little bit more recessed than I'd like. Yeah, but like everything about that felt very, very good. Awesome. Okay, so this works really well. And the display's fine. Display's totally okay. Once I was actually playing on it, it was no problem at all. Okay, awesome. So, there's Pump It Up Machine number 2. I'm gonna have another video where I do a deep cleaning on this, probably, and all that stuff. Oh boy, I'm making that promise now. Now I have to do it. I'm going to do a deep cleaning on this. I expect to get it on video, probably. Yeah, and I'll be streaming NX2 maybe once or twice before I put another version in there, just to get to know it a little bit, because it's something I haven't played with before. Yeah, anyway, so there's my second Pump It Up machine. It still doesn't have a home as of today, other than here. It doesn't actually do me any good to have 2 of these. I guess I haven't talked about this all video. So my plan with this was... actually, I don't know what I talked about, because I'm... This is awkward. Okay, so I'm recording these last little bits with my voice. I'm going to voice over the earlier bits where I'm just unpacking it. Anyway, so the plan was to... You know what? I've explained this already, so I don't have to say it. Let me make this as awkward as possible and keep talking. Okay, anyway, see you next time for probably more cleaning videos for this thing.